Hello everyone, my name is Zach, aka The Weather Gamer. There is no face cam for this video. I'm choosing not to have my face on screen for the standings just because it's a little funky to try and move the camera around and not post-editing software. So we're going to go over WWC, my league that I run through my Discord server. Week 1, standings, transactions, and kill leaders. So to start it off, we're going to start with the standings. We'll start with the lowest ranked team, moving all the way up to the top ranked team, from 12th place up to 1st. So in 12th place, unfortunately, it's me and the Chicago Bearticks, 0-1 minus 5. Nobody else has a worse record to start the season than me. Most of you have seen, or hopefully seen, my battle video. It is up on this channel as well. I made the mistake of bringing in Escavalier that I thought was min speed in order to avoid a trick room sweep, and it turns out I had 31 IVs in my speed stat. Therefore, I did not outspeed a min speed Cofagrigus, and it HP fired me, and at that point it set up nasty plots in my face during Trick Room. I had nothing to kill it, and unfortunately I got beat pretty bad. Hopefully bounce back, and next time I face a Trick Room team, I'm definitely double checking my speed. In 10th place, we actually have a tie between the Louisiana Luxrays and the Ottawa Centrets. The Centrets ended up not being able to play their match this week. So as a rule for this league, if you have to forfeit, you forfeit 3-0. So the Centrets did not play their 0-1 minus 3. The Louisiana Luxrays did play, however, and they are minus 3 as well. The big thing with the Louisiana Luxrays, when watching their match, they subbed in one of their Mons. Not realizing that flash cannon is a thing, I'm wondering. They took a direct shot to their, this is where I wish I had paid attention to my matches, and written better notes. They took a flash cannon to the face, and it destroyed one of their Mons. Also, big play, switching in Dragonite, and then expecting a switch from the Lycanrocs, their opponent, switching in Cryogonal. So the Dragonites ended up going for a fire punch, or the Luxrays went for a fire punch with their Dragonite. That was about as good of a prediction as you can make. Speaking of that Dragonite, question as to why it wasn't carrying an Ice type move. If it had Fire Punch, why not have it carry Ice Punch? Ice Punch would have done some work and would have taken out a few of their Mons their opponent's Mons that they were switching in and out, including the Ninjask that I will talk about later. Also, running HP Electric on Donphan was an interesting decision. I think HP Fire or HP Ice might have been a better choice for the team overall. HP Electric ended up getting them caught with a Nidoking switch in, doing no damage. That's where that Ice Punch would have come in really handy to hit the Nidoking on that switch instead of the HP Electric from the Donphan. Also, HP Ice on the Donphan would have potentially hit the Nidoking as well. Finally, there was Donphan in versus the Nidoking, and the Donphan did not go for EQ. EQ would have done some serious damage and potentially could have killed the Nidoking, which would have helped take a big threat off the board. That didn't really make sense to me. It'll be interesting to see how the Luxrays move forward if they learn from this and carry the Earthquake. And the other big thing that the Luxrays need to do is they need to check their speed stats. Staying in on Mons that they thought normally would outspeed. Unfortunately, there's an Ninjask, that baton passing speed around. You definitely need to prep and check your speed tiers just to make sure that there is no issue with something that you should outspeed, you end up not outspeeding. So moving on from 12th and our tie for 10th, we have the three-way tie. This is week 1, so I'm expecting a lot of ties. You'll see a lot of ties in the standings. We have a three-way tie for 7th between the Chicago Claunchers, the West Texas Leafeons, and the Nunavut Garchomps, or NB Garchomps as I will call them. Starting with the Claunchers, there's some very interesting plays made, including a Fire Punch. I did talk about this matchup in the week review, Match of the Week review. A Fire Punch on the switch into Mega Kangaskong was rather interesting decision with the I can't think of what Mon was fire punching. Aggron. That was very interesting. If you thought that Mega Kanga was coming in, I don't know if Fire Punch was the correct play based on what was still on the team, unless he was trying to hit the Mammo, although the Mamoswine should be afraid of a Steel-type move, so I don't know why it would have stayed in front of an Aggron. Also, with the Claunchers, Rocky Helmet on that Aggron was clutch. That was a great set, great item choice for that Mon. Knowing that Power Up Punch Mega Kanga was a possibility, allowing itself to get to +2 attack and then basically sweep, having that Rocky Helmet, it took 2 Rocky Helmet hits because of parental bonding, and really put some major damage into that Mega Kanga. It also made sure that that Mega Kanga could not hit another physical move while sitting in front of this Aggron. Really good choice and item by the Claunchers on that. However, the lack of rock move on the Aerodactyl was surprising. Had the Aerodactyl been carrying something like Stone Edge or Rock Slide when it was up against the Togekiss, the Togekiss switched in on an Earthquake, which was very well played by the Cacturns. Had that been a Rock-type move, that probably would have killed the Togekiss, prevented a Baton Pass, and stopping the Victini from being able to get in for free on a Baton Pass to reset its choice item, which I will talk about later when we get to the Cacturns. The lack of a rock move, I think, was the biggest fault in the Claunchers' play this week. I think they've learned to bring a rock move on Arrow, or else bring coverage for the Mons that are needed, because Aerodactyl, Mega Aerodactyl ends up, unless it's a choice Scarf, would outspeed Victini anyways, so hitting a rock move would put pressure on the Victini as it switched in. Going on to the Leafeons. Not much really. This match kind of was decided by hacks. The Leafeons ended up getting 3 or 4 critical hits across the board on various Mons, which made a huge difference. However, what really sealed the deal on this one was when the Aegislash brought by the Dutch Pyroars put up a sub in front of Mega Charizard Y. Mega Charizard Y set the sun and proceeded to Fire Blast. The Fire Blast missed. Had that Fire Blast connected and knocked the sub out of play, Aegislash would have gone down and the Charizard would not have fainted. Instead, how it played out was the Fire Blast missed, Charizard takes a Shadow Claw, the second Fire Blast hits, erasing the sub, and then the Charizard dies to a Shadow Claw again, a second Shadow Claw. Had that first Fire Blast hit, sub goes away, takes the Shadow Claw, and then immediately puts pressure onto the Aegislash to switch out, or potentially have to Shadow Sneak, or something else. Also with the West Texas Leafeons, huge play to carry Crunch on the Araquanid. I don't think the Dutch Pyroars were expecting Crunch. It did crit, but still, that was a great play to carry Crunch for that Aegislash. They weren't expecting it, and that ended up getting a kill on Aegislash, so that was one major threat knocked off the board by a very nice choice of carrying a unsuspected move in Crunch. The other question when watching this match from this week was the Darmanitan brought by the Dutch Pyros did show Zen Headbutt. It ended up knocking out the Leafeon's Hariyama with Zen Headbutt. The Leafeons then responded to bring in Dragalge right away. I'm not sure if they knew that Dragalge was slower, or if they didn't think the Zen Headbutt would kill. My guess is the Darmanitan was running Sheer Force Life Orb, so the Zen Headbutt was going to kill no matter what. That was a rather interesting play, considering the following play, or the following turn, Heliolisk comes in, guessing it was a Specs Heliolisk, hyper voices and kills the Darmanitan. Had that come in instead of the Dragalge, the Dragalge could have been around, potentially to handle a few other threats that were sitting around. Moving on to the NB Garchomps. And their match did not get featured this week. It was a rather interesting match, to say the least. I can always post it if there's someone who would like to see it. Down in the comments, just let me know if you want to see the match. Any of these matches, I can pull them and post them. Counter on Regirock. That was an amazing, amazing way to check the Mega Lopunny, because the Mega Lopunny cannot OHKO the Regirock. Regirock clicks counter and basically wipes Lopunny off the board. That was huge for that, and I have to give props to Damien, the coach of the Garchomps, for bringing counter on Regirock just solely to deal with that massive threat of Mega Lopunny. Once it was determined that Heat Proof was the ability on the Bronzong brought by the OSS Dragonites against the Garchomps, Weezing, that was Fire Blasting, probably should have been switched out for an Earthquake Mon. The Garchomps did bring Flygon. Flygon was carrying Earthquake. It was seen later in the match using Earthquake. Had Weezing been swapped out instead, and Flygon comes in and Earthquakes, it would definitely put pressure on the entire team. There was no Flying type to take a hit from the Earthquake or Levitate user, since Bronzong was carrying Heat Proof, and it would have put massive damage on the Bronzong, preventing major damage to other Mons, plus losing Weezing prevented it from putting in work and allowing it to check Mega Lopunny a bit. Another thing with the Garchomps, very, very unlucky roll with the Savali brought by the Dragonites. The Savali lived on 1 HP and ended up being able to come in and do some chip damage and still affect and hurt the Garchomps team. Had that Savali gone down, there wouldn't have been a parting shot, and the Savali wouldn't have been as annoying to deal with for the Garchomps. The other issue with that Savali is it was carrying Ice Beam. When when Flygon came in later in the match against the Savali, I don't know if Damien didn't know it didn't outspeed, or what happened. Didn't think that a Ghost Savali would carry Ice Beam. Savali generally carries coverage, in my opinion. So staying in and getting hit by an Ice Beam from Savali, costing the Flygon, was another mistake on the Garchomps, in my opinion. Finally, the final thing that I really, really didn't understand by the Garchomps in this match was no crunch on the Curslax. Having the opponent have a Savali sitting in front of them, as well as the Garchomps being able to run Coco Lucha if they wanted to, I would have thought a Ghost Savali would have been the most obvious choice to come in, since there were no other Ghost types on the OSS Dragonite squad. The Ghost type would prevent body slamming, it would prevent hazard removals from Rapid Spinners with the... Rapid Spin was not an option for the Garchomps this week. As we'll see later, they do now have Rapid Spin. That crunch really just hurt. I think had they had crunch on the Curslax would have killed the Savali, and the Curslax basically could have set up and been a very massive, massive problem for the OSS Dragonites. Moving on to our next tier, we have a tie for 4th place between the Dutch Pyroars, the Copenhagen Cacturns, and the OSS Dragonites, each of which are 1-0 with a +2 differential. Starting with the Dutch Pyroars, the biggest questions with this match overall, leaving the Gardevoir in against the Hariyama, allowing it to take a second Bullet Punch, Guts Flamor Bullet Punch after taking a non-boosted Bullet Punch to begin with, was rather strange in my mind. I know it should live, but there was always the potential of a crit happening or a heavy slam going off instead of Bullet Punch. Granted, the Gardevoir should have been faster. However, depending on the build of the Hariyama, the heavy slam would have taken it out instead. So it was a very risky play. It did not work out, and they lost their Mega Gardevoir early due to a crit from a Bullet Punch. Also, Specs Hydreigon was a very good play. Basically helped destroy the team. My question is, why did the Pyroars sack Amon there at the end when it was just down to Mew, and it was Mew v3, Nidoqueen, a Hydreigon, and I do not remember the last Mon that was sitting there. My question for the Pyroars is, why did they sack the Nidoqueen to a Psychic from Mew? They had seen U-turn, so I could understand why they'd be slightly scared to bring in Hydreigon for fear of 2 U-turns, potentially with a crit, which one did crit, knocking out the Hydreigon, and then losing a huge check to the Mew. However, knowing that, the Mew also could run Psychic Z and set up Psychic Terrain and potentially sweep with that. If it was carrying a coverage move that would take out the Hydreigon, such as Ice Beam or a Fighting-type move. The switch into Hydreigon when the Psychic would kill the Nidoqueen would have been the best play, would have saved differential, and actually would have moved the Pyroars up into a tie for 2nd place, being that they'd be +3. So that would be something that I'm curious to find out more as to why the Pyroars just decided to sack Nidoqueen when they could have played for differential. As far as the Copenhagen Cacturns go, there wasn't much to say about them, other than they did sack their Goribus first turn it was Goribus against Rotom Heat. Not really sure why they stayed in with the Goribus. Yes, Scald did a huge amount, however, the Rotom Heat did not die, and a ensuing Volt Switch destroyed the Goribus, and the Goribus could have still come in later, Shell Smashed, potentially swept the team. The other thing was, during the match, it was given away pretty quickly that the Victini was choice locked, having it switch out and being baton passed back and forth to get it back in to reset at the time of the match, I thought a choice banned. However, because the Cacturns the Claunchers, Chicago Claunchers, brought their Mega Aerodactyl before doing this video, doing some calcs, and that it had to have been a Scarfed Victini. There was no way that the Victini could have come in and outsped the Aerodactyl to kill it with a Bolt Strike without running a Scarf. Aerodactyl is just so fast to begin with, and even running 252 Jolly, a Victini cannot outspeed a max speed Aerodactyl. So that's where the Scarf was pretty obvious. However, they were able to play around with it. Lucky to not have a Rock-type move come against them with the Mega Aerodactyl. Had the Mega Aerodactyl been carrying that Rock-type move, like I said when I talked about launchers. The Copenhagen Cacturns very well could have lost this match 3-0 instead of winning 2-0. It was just that close of a determination. The OSS Dragonites, moving on to them. So Valley Ghost was a huge play, like I said, with when I was talking about the Garchomps. That really just checked Curse Slacks. It kept, if Coco Lucha had come, it would keep Halucha from using its fighting type moves unless it was carrying Mold Breaker. I believe it gets Mold Breaker. I'm not 100% certain, actually, if Halucha gets Mold Breaker, but for some reason that sounds very familiar. Also would have forced basically Acrobatics to have been the only attack, and they had Bronzong as well as Miltank that were bulky enough that could take those Acrobatics and not have to worry about them. Also, question of why staying in with the Lopunny when they saw the counter was on the Regirock earlier in the game. Primarina was still full health, still alive. Could have definitely come in and fired off some Scalds, fired off a Hydro Pump if it was carrying Hydro Pump, put the Regirock down, and then Mega Lopunny sweeps. I don't know why Mega Lopunny stayed in and tried to basically OHKO a Regirock it had no business trying to OHKO. So that was a very confusing move. However, it didn't seem to really matter. Long run, the Dragonites still pulled it out and picked up the 2-0 win. Moving into our top 3 for the week. We actually have a tie for second place between the Lofton Lycanrocs and the Tampa Bay Weasels. The Tampa Bay Weasels were the opponent of the the Ottawa Centrets that forfeited, so the Weasels did not actually play their match. They were awarded a 3-0 victory, putting them tied for second. The Lycanrocs, Baton Pass, speed boosting Ninjask. At the very beginning of the season, when Ninjask was taken in the second round of the draft, everybody laughed. Everybody didn't think this thing was going to be a good choice. It was taken way too high. And then looking at the team and realizing what had been selected around this Ninjask, it became very apparent that Ninjask was a sneakily good pick to take in the second round. The biggest question was, to start the match off for me, the Ninjask comes in against the Luxray with Intimidate. So the attack drop on the there was an attack drop on the Ninjask. It was a sashed Ninjask, so it was guaranteed 1 speed boost, and actually was carrying Protect as well, so it went +2 speed, -1 attack. Then Baton Passing into Mega Gallade. Mega Gallade is normally a very physical mon. It did not make sense to me to pass that -1 attack into a very physical mon. To me, it would have been better to Baton Pass that speed into a special mon, where the attack drop wouldn't have mattered. Also, bringing Umbreon this match with Wish was basically a very obvious thing that was going to happen. Most of the time, that's all Umbreon does, is it comes and wishes, and then Baton passes out or switches out in order to pass that wish. Later in the match, the Umbreon did Wish Pass. It Wish Passed. Pardon the hiccup there. It did Wish Pass into Ninjask. So now Ninjask can take another hit, Protect, and then pass the +2 speed again to something else. I thought that was a very cool play. I thought that was a very nice, interesting way to get the Ninjask up to more health, because at that point the major threats to it were gone, and potentially allow it to Protect, get speed, take a hit, get another speed, Protect again to get 4 or +3 on the speed, and then Baton Pass out into something that could just completely and totally wreck shop at +3 speed. Very, very good play in my mind. Ninjask, I have a feeling, it won't be a kill leader, but whatever it Baton Passes its speed into is going to get up on that kill board. Just Baton Passing, Speed Pass, Very, very scary thing, very, very interesting thing, and quite frankly, something to keep an eye on throughout the season as how that goes. Finally, first place for the week, the Baltimore Murkrows, 1-0 plus 5. They were my opponent for week 1. And like I said when talking about my team, I made the mistake of having the wrong speed on my Escavalier. Trick Room Cofagrigus plus Nasty Plotting up to plus 4 since I had nothing that could hit it and kill it before it was building its attack. I also had mainly physical wall breakers this week. So touching Cofagrigus, getting the mummy ability, spreading it around and hurting my ability to hit harder with certain abilities was not something I was willing to risk until it was basically too late, allowing for the setup to occur. Overall, well played, very bulky team, brought a lot of things I figured were going to come. Did bring an Intimidate user, knowing I was bringing some physical wall breakers. I had to play around that. But all in all, the Baltimore Murkrows played extraordinarily well. Had the bulk to support it. And just, I'm not going to say it was lucky because that's something that all battlers should check is their spreads. And just knew when to click Trick Room and when to basically take it on. Basically go for the sweep, and they got it. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to a rematch against the Murkrows. If we both make playoffs, I would definitely like a rematch to just see how it would have played out had I run min speed on my Escavalier. So moving on, we're going to talk about the kill leaders. It is week 1, so the kill leaders do not really make much difference. There are 11 Mons instead of 10 on the board because we do have a tie for 10th place since it is the first week. Normally I will show the top 20, but the problem is after these 11, you have about 25 Mons tied at 1 kill, 1 death, 0 for the differential. So at this point in the season, it's not worth putting up the top 20. We'll just cover the top 10, 11 in this case. So the one thing with the forfeits, the coaches are allowed to pick who gets the kills when their opponent forfeits to them. So while the Tampa Bay Weasels are sitting in first, +6 with Mega Salamence, there is an asterisk on that as they did receive a forfeit victory. Therefore, they made it +6. I do expect Mega Salamence to sit near the top of the leaderboard, if not be the kill leader for the season. It's just something to keep note of. At the end of the season, we'll go back and see how that 6-kill forfeit played out. In second place, the 5-kill Cofagrigus of the Baltimore Murkrows. I did not expect Cofagrigus to be up here on the leaderboard. Really surprised me. Because of Trick Room, I forget sometimes that things that shouldn't be on there that are slow and bulky can't end up being on the kill leader. So right now, Cofagrigus is actually sitting in second. We'll see how that holds throughout the season. Another Mon that's routinely on the top 10s is Victini here, as we see it in third place with a +4 differential for the Copenhagen Cacturns, putting in a lot of work for week 1 already. I expect it to stick around in the top 10. It could challenge Mega Salamence for first, but I do not expect it to fall out of 10th. Nidoking, just really well matched for this week. Actually tied with its partner, Magnezone, on the Lycanrocs with 3 kills, 0 deaths, +3, tied for 4th. Coming in for the 6th place for the week, we have the Mamoswine of the Copenhagen Cacturns with a +2 differential, mainly finishing off Ice Sharding a few Mons before switching out to give Victini one last shot. Mega Medicham also coming in with a +1, tied for 7th with Mega Lopunny and Darmanitan. Fully expected all 3 of those Mons to be in the top 20. I don't know if they will all stick around in the top 10, but definitely expect them to be around in the top 20. They're all very physically offensive Mons, very high pressure Mons. They can do a lot of work really, really fast. And then our tie for 10th, it comes with the Baltimore Murkrows. Their Suicune ended up getting a kill against me. And then the Infernapes, or not the Infernapes, the Dragonites having an Infernape that ended up killing one Mon to clean up that game. So there's our top 11. There's some Mons that didn't come week 1 that I fully expect to be up here. I do expect Mega Garchomp to make it into the top 10. Just from my own playing experience with that Mon, I know how much of a monster it can be, and I fully expect it to make it onto the board. If not top 10, at least top 20. All in all, some very interesting choices. I think if I get my Rain up and running on my team, Mega Swampert will make it to the kill board. Tapu Lele should hit this kill board when it comes. Again, the Weasels didn't play their match. Aegislash should hit this board. There's quite a few Mons that are missing off the top 10 list in my mind that, or top 20, that will, as the season progresses, make their way onto the top 20. So finally, to round it out, we're going to go over the transactions for the week. These transactions are valid for week 2, so starting with this week that we are currently in, you should see some new Mons on teams if they're brought. We'll go ahead and start with the Chicago Bearticks myself. I traded in my Tier 5 Beartick for Tier 5 Armaldo. I didn't really see a reason to bring Beartick. Beartick was more of a for the meme pick, I guess, because it gets Swift Swim and it has Slush Rush, so it can run in Hail, it can run in Rain. Pardon me. So to me, that was the whole reason I brought it, but looking throughout the season, I didn't really think that Beartick had that good of a matchup across the board for the season. And so I'd rather get something that gave me a true rocker, gave me a true rock type to try and help protect a little bit on my one ice type. Also, you can run AV on Armaldo with its special defensive stat, and it can sit in front of a lot of things, reliably rock, and then counter with decent attack stat, decent hits on attack. It also does get the ability Swift Swim, so it can get faster in the rain if I need it to. But it gives me a more reliable rocker, and that's something that I was wanting over Beartick, was something a little more reliable. Moving on, the Garchomps making a couple of one surprise swap for me. Dropping Mega Medicham for Mega Pinsir. I know Mega Pinsir is a monster, but Mega Medicham, Thunder Punch, and Electric Terrain from Coco is actually a pretty nasty hit to anything that tries to take it. Mega Medicham is a very beastly Mon, but at the same time, Mega Pinsir does get Aerialate to its normal type moves, raising them to 1.2 and giving them a flying typing, so it also boosts stab since Pinsir becomes bug flying when it mega evolves. It'll be a very big monster to deal with. Scissor also being swapped. Tier 5 Scissor for Tier 5 Claydol. Claydol is a good rapid spinner. It can set rocks, it can set spikes. It's got Levitate, so it can't be hit by ground type moves, so it can switch in and tag in for Tapu Koko and have the Earthquake miss. It's a very good Trick Room Mon as well. It can set Trick Room and then hit something very, very hard very quickly. So it kind of helps make up for some of the offensive pressure lost from losing Mega Medicham. However, it does give another ice weakness to this team. Final transaction, the OSS Dragonites are dropping Mandibuzz for Reuniclus. They're dropping their Defogger, one of their Defoggers. Reuniclus, to me, it sits in front of things. It's a big, bulky nightmare, but it's super slow. However, when looking at the Dragonites team, they also have a Rhydon, which is very slow, as well as several Bronzong, which is semi-slow. basically this could be another Trick Room team along with the Murkrows. Set up Trick Room with Reuniclus. It hits hard. Regens out if it gets low. Rhydon comes in. Rhydon hits like a truck in Trick Room. So all in all, this could be a very sketchy, scary thing to deal with, potentially as another Trick Room team. So it's not a bad pick up, it's just a curious one, considering how good Mandibuzz can be on teams. So all in all, that wraps up this Week 1 recap for WWC Season 1. We'll see how Week 2 plays out, who comes up for kill leaders, who falls off for kill leaders, if any transactions are made, and how the standings start to change. Still way too early in the season to start thinking about playoffs, but all in all, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I will be back for my Week 2 team builder that will go up here. The match should be played here tomorrow, so at the time of recording, this is Tuesday for me. Match will be played on Wednesday, so expect the team builder to go up Wednesday, and then the match should go up on Thursday. I will be live commentating the match this time, so no awkward post edits. Thanks guys for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.